Have you ever wondered why some mornings feel heavier than others? Why you wake up tired, anxious, or burdened, and you don't even know why? You slept for hours, but your soul didn't rest. Your body was still, but your mind was under attack. What if I told you the real battle doesn't start when the alarm clock rings? It starts in the silence of the night, when no one's watching, when your guard is down and your spirit is wide open. See, the night isn't just a time to sleep. It's a time when your subconscious listens, absorbs, and stores everything around you. And in that silence, something is always speaking. Fear, doubt, shame, or faith, peace, and truth. You get to choose. That's why tonight and every night after, you need to make a decision. Fill your space with something that fights for you while you rest. Keep this prayer playing while you sleep, not because you're religious, but because you're intentional. Because you understand that rest isn't just physical, it's spiritual. What surrounds you while you sleep will shape who you become when you wake. So let the word speak while the world sleeps. Let peace fight the battles you can't see. The subconscious mind is a powerful force that often operates quietly beneath the surface of our awareness. While we are awake, our conscious thoughts, choices, and actions dominate. But when we fall asleep, the conscious mind begins to rest and the subconscious becomes more open and receptive. This makes the time during sleep one of the most influential windows for spiritual and mental programming. It is during this stillness that the mind is most suggestible, when it absorbs ideas, beliefs, and messages more deeply and without resistance. That's why what we allow into our atmosphere during sleep matters. It's not just about what you watch or listen to before bed. It's about what continues to echo in your room and your spirit after you close your eyes. Prayer, when played while sleeping, works like a gentle stream flowing straight into the soil of your inner being. Repetition is one of the subconscious mind's greatest teachers. When a prayer is played softly through the night, the mind begins to internalize its rhythm, tone, and words. Even if you don't remember hearing it, even if you're not fully aware of its impact, it is still working. Your heart is listening. Your soul is receiving. It's not about understanding every word in the moment. It's about allowing that truth, that peace, that spiritual clarity to rest over you and do its work beneath the surface. In the same way, negativity and fear can creep into your mind and shape your emotions without your permission. So can faith and hope be planted while you sleep, if you choose to fill your space with the right voices. Think about how dreams often reflect what's on our minds. The things we stress about, fear, or hope for tend to surface in our dreams. That is the subconscious mind pulling from the reservoir of what we've stored. So imagine what happens when the reservoir is filled with prayer, when instead of stress you fall asleep to words of strength, peace, love, and divine promise. The prayer doesn't stop when you fall asleep. Its presence continues to shape the tone of your rest, the rhythm of your dreams, and the condition of your spirit when you wake. This is more than inspiration. This is spiritual reprogramming. This is allowing the truth of who you are and who God is to bypass the noise and take root in the deeper parts of your being. Science has shown that during sleep, especially the lighter stages of sleep, The brain is still processing external sounds. If the prayer is played at a low, calm volume, the subconscious continues to process that information, integrating it subtly. That means you're not just resting physically, you're feeding your soul. You're watering seeds that will grow in the day to come. Many people wake up anxious, exhausted, and directionless, and they don't know why. It's not just what you did during the day. It's what surrounded you in the night. If you surround yourself with fear, noise, or nothing at all, you'll feel the emptiness when you wake. But if you surround yourself with peace, faith, and prayer, you begin to wake up more grounded, more focused, more spiritually alert. This is why keeping prayer playing while you sleep is not about religion. It's about relationship. It's about surrender. It's about protection. And most of all, it's about planting truth where it counts. Deep down, where no one else sees, where battles are won before they're even fought. Prayer has long been understood as a source of comfort, guidance, and strength. But its role as a protective force, especially during sleep, is often underestimated. When we sleep, our physical defenses are down. We're unaware, unguarded, and open, not just mentally, but spiritually. Night is when many people wrestle with their deepest fears, hidden anxieties, and invisible battles. Rest is not always peaceful, and for some, nighttime is when the weight of life feels heaviest. The rhythmatods in Christ keeps us flexible. Even in the busiest day, your thoughts get distracted. And the noise dies down, your thoughts get louder, worries rise, doubts echo, regrets replay. That's why prayer becomes more than just a habit. It becomes a sheep. When prayer is played through the night, it changes the atmosphere. It becomes more than background noise. It becomes a presence. There is something deeply powerful about the spoken word, especially when it is filled with faith, truth, and spiritual authority. The words of a sincere prayer don't just float in the air. They carry weight. They carry energy. They create a spiritual environment that is not just calming, but protect. Just as you wouldn't leave your home unlocked at night, you shouldn't leave your spirit uncovered. Prayer becomes the spiritual lock, the watchtower standing between you and the attacks that often come in the silence. Fear, depression, nightmares, spiritual unrest. There's a reason why people often feel uneasy at night. It's the time when the distractions of the day are gone and we're left with ourselves. It's also the time when many spiritual attacks occur. Throughout history and in countless faith traditions, nighttime has been considered a vulnerable hour, not just physically, but spiritually. That's why in ancient texts, you see references to people praying through the watches of the night, seeking divine protection and intervention while the world sleeps. It's not superstition. It's recognition of the unseen battles that can rage while we rest. Prayer, especially when it is consistent and intentional, brings order to the chaos. It reminds the soul who's in charge. It tells the enemy you are not alone. When a room is filled with prayer, darkness doesn't feel at home. Fear begins to lose its grip. Anxiety finds no room to breathe. It's not about being dramatic. It's about being spiritually aware. If you've ever gone to bed with a heavy heart and woke up feeling like something wasn't right, even though you couldn't explain it, you've felt what it's like to be unguarded. But when prayer fills that space, it becomes a covering. It doesn't eliminate every problem, but it surrounds you with peace that's deeper than the problem. What's even more powerful is that the mind and body begin to associate prayer with rest. Over time, it trains your nervous system to relax in the presence of divine peace. It becomes a rhythm, a cue to the soul that it is safe to release, to let go, to trust. That's why many people who begin playing prayer at night find they sleep deeper, dream clearer, and wake up lighter. It's not just psychological, it's spiritual alignment. Your soul knows the difference between silence and sanctuary. Prayer makes your bedroom a sanctuary. This practice is especially important in seasons of transition, stress, or emotional heaviness. It is in those seasons that fear loves to whisper the loudest. But when prayer is playing, fear is not the only voice in the room. Hope speaks too. Grace whispers back. And strength is renewed even while you rest. Prayer holds you in a place of peace when you cannot hold yourself. It becomes your defense, your comfort, and your quiet declaration of trust, even in the darkest hour. Faith is not something that clocks in and out with your daily schedule. It doesn't take a break when you lie down, and it doesn't wait for morning to get to work. True faith is always active. Even when your body is still, when your eyes are closed, and when your thoughts drift into sleep, faith continues to operate in the background. It works silently, steadily, shaping your inner world, protecting your peace, and preparing your heart for whatever lies ahead. That's why it's important to understand that the spiritual realm doesn't pause just because you're tired. The battles of the mind, the whispers of fear, the silent heaviness of anxiety, they don't always come during the day. In fact, they often sneak in during the night when you're least aware. When you keep prayer playing while you sleep, you're not just playing sounds. You are making a decision to let your faith keep moving. You're choosing to stay connected to the presence of something greater than yourself, even when your conscious mind is not alert. That act alone speaks volumes. It says, I may not be awake, but I'm not unguarded. I may not be speaking, but I'm still listening. I may not be in control, but I trust the one who is. Faith doesn't need you to be wide awake to work. It just needs access. And when prayer is playing, faith has something to hold on to, something to build with, something to stand on. So many people think faith is only activated when you're praying hard, worshiping loudly, or reading the Word with full focus. But real faith doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need noise or emotion to function. It works in silence. It works in surrender. And one of the deepest forms of surrender is rest. When you go to sleep with prayer playing, you are giving faith permission to move while you remain still. You are trusting that something holy is watching, working and covering you in ways you cannot see. There's something sacred about faith that doesn't quit. The kind of faith that says, even while I sleep, I'm being prepared. Even while I rest, my soul is being nourished. Even in silence, God is speaking. That faith is powerful. It's not based on feeling. It's not based on routine. It's based on a relationship that runs deeper than awareness. A relationship that doesn't need your constant participation to be real. A relationship that works for your good even while you rest in your weakness. Imagine how different your nights would feel if you believed that faith was still at work, even in the silence. Imagine what kind of peace you'd sleep with if you knew that you weren't spiritually idle while your body recharged. Keeping prayer playing while you sleep is not just about what you hear, it's about what you believe is happening, even when you're not fully aware. It's about believing that your spirit is never disconnected, never powerless, never forgotten. This is why the night is not a break from spiritual growth. It's part of it. Because faith is not limited by time. It doesn't require your energy to be effective. It simply requires your trust. That trust says, I believe that healing can happen while I sleep. I believe that peace can cover me when I don't even know I need it. I believe that tomorrow is already being prepared for me tonight. That's the kind of faith that doesn't sleep. That's the kind of faith that transforms lives, not through effort, but through presence. Not through striving, but through surrender. Faith works the night shift so you don't have to. The mind is constantly receiving, filtering, and storing information, even when we're not aware of it. What we hear, see, and think during the day shapes how we feel and respond to life. But what many people don't realize is that this process continues while we sleep. The subconscious mind doesn't shut down when the body rests. It stays open, soaking in sounds, emotions, and vibrations from our surroundings. This is where prayer becomes more than a spiritual habit. It becomes a tool for reprogramming the inner life. When you play prayer while you sleep, you're not just creating background noise. You're filling the deepest parts of your mind with words that renew, strengthen, and align your spirit with truth. Throughout life, we collect negative beliefs about ourselves, others, and our future. Sometimes it comes from things people say. Sometimes it's shaped by trauma, disappointment, or fear. These beliefs don't always sit on the surface. They get stored deep down where we don't even realize they're influencing us. That's why we can wake up feeling low without knowing why. That's why fear can live in the background of our decisions even if we can't explain it. Prayer, especially when played during sleep, starts to chip away at these lies. It speaks directly to the subconscious, not with loud commands, but with quiet truths that repeat over and over again, planting seeds of peace and faith. Repetition is one of the most powerful ways to reshape the mind. What you hear again and again begins to form pathways in your brain. If you constantly hear that you're not good enough, you'll start to believe it, even if it's never said out loud. But the opposite is also true. If you continuously hear that you are loved, chosen, protected, and guided, your inner world begins to shift. your confidence grows, your fears start to fade. You don't need to be awake and paying full attention for that transformation to happen. You just need to allow your environment to be filled with truth long enough for it to take root. This isn't a quick fix. It's not about listening to one night of prayer and waking up a completely changed person. It's a slow, steady process of reshaping your mind with what is real instead of what fear has told you. Night after night, your mind becomes more familiar with the sound of peace than panic, more used to hearing grace than guilt. Your spirit begins to recognize truth as home instead of living in survival mode. And over time, you start to notice a shift, not just in how you sleep, but in how you live. You become more grounded, more centered, more in tune with your purpose. This is how transformation happens, not just in moments of high emotion, but in quiet, consistent practices that create space for change. Playing prayer while you sleep creates that space. It doesn't demand your energy. It doesn't ask you to perform. It simply invites you to rest while healing words do their work. It reminds your soul who you really are. It replaces the inner noise with divine clarity. It teaches your heart to trust again, even when your conscious mind is still catching up. As often we think change requires striving, but real lasting change often happens in surrender. When you allow prayer to fill your space as you sleep, you're not just escaping stress. You're rewriting your story from the inside out. And it's in that quiet, surrendered state that the most powerful growth begins. The environment we surround ourselves with shapes our emotions, thoughts, and energy, often in ways we don't fully recognize. During the day, we can choose where we go, who we speak to, and what we listen to. We can block out negativity, distract ourselves from stress, and push through discomfort. But at night, when we're no longer in control, when we let go and close our eyes, the environment becomes even more important. What surrounds us while we sleep has the power to either bring us peace or invite unrest. That's why playing prayer while you sleep does more than fill a space with sound. It creates a sacred atmosphere, a spiritual covering that transforms your room from a simple place of rest into a place of restoration. Sound carries frequency. Every word, every tone, every rhythm influences the body and mind. Harsh sounds, chaotic energy, or silence filled with tension can feed anxiety and unrest. But when prayer is spoken aloud, especially in a peaceful tone and rhythm, it carries a calming energy. It doesn't just sound good, it feels safe. It speaks to your body, signaling that it's okay to relax. It speaks to your mind, telling it to release the burdens of the day. And it speaks to your spirit, reminding you that you are not alone. That kind of atmosphere begins to shift everything around you. The room takes on a different weight, a different presence. What was once just a quiet space becomes a place where peace lives. Spiritual environments are not created by chance. They are built by intention. What you allow to play while you sleep either invites peace or opens the door to restlessness. You may not think the atmosphere matters when you are asleep, but your soul knows the difference. When a prayer is playing, the energy of the room begins to align with what is being spoken. Words of hope, protection, love, and truth. And alignment can push out the things that don't belong: fear, doubt, lingering sadness. A holy atmosphere doesn't allow those things to stay comfortable. It disrupts the presence of darkness and confusion. It makes space for light. This is why people often feel something when they walk into certain rooms. You can sense when a place has been filled with tension or filled with peace. The same is true for your sleeping environment. If you go to sleep with television noise, arguments, or empty silence, your body may be still, but your spirit doesn't rest. But if the air is filled with prayer, your entire being begins to let go, to breathe differently, to settle into something deeper than sleep, something closer to healing. There's also a psychological side to this spiritual experience. When you associate your sleeping space with prayer, it conditions your mind to expect calm. Over time, this practice forms a mental and emotional connection between your bed and the presence of peace. It becomes a safe space, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. That sense of safety lowers stress levels, slows your heart rate, and improves the quality of your rest. You begin to feel not only more rested, but more balanced, more clear-minded, and more grounded when you wake up. Creating a holy atmosphere through prayer doesn't mean the room becomes perfect or that life's problems disappear. It means you are surrounding yourself with a presence that reminds you who's in control. It gives your soul a place to breathe, a place to heal, a place to reconnect. Even in your unconscious state, you're dwelling in an environment that protects your peace and speaks to your purpose. That kind of atmosphere doesn't just help you sleep better. It strengthens you for whatever comes after you wake up. Victory is not something that begins when the sun comes up. It starts long before your feet ever hit the floor. What happens in the quiet hours of the night, when no one is watching, when the world is silent, and when you're left alone with your thoughts, sets the tone for the kind of day you will have. People often think their strength, discipline, or clarity begins with what they do in the morning, but in truth, the battle is already being won or lost during the night. That's why what you allow into your spirit while you sleep has lasting consequences. Playing prayer while you sleep is not just about comfort, it is about preparation. It is about engaging in spiritual readiness even while your body is resting. The nighttime is not empty space. It is a place of transition where your soul processes everything you've seen, felt, and carried throughout the day. The mind replays conversations, memories, fears, and expectations, many of them without your control. That is where silent battles begin. Doubts can grow in the dark. Insecurity becomes louder. Old pain resurfaces. The spiritual enemy doesn't wait for daylight to whisper lies or stir fear. He moves in quiet, subtle ways, taking advantage of your most vulnerable state. But when prayer is playing, you are not defenseless. You are filling the atmosphere with truth that fights for you while you sleep. The words of prayer don't just sit in the air. They go to work. They stand guard over your thoughts. They speak peace into your restless moments. They become the quiet resistance against everything that tries to break you down before the day even starts. When you pray before bed or play prayer throughout the night, you are setting the spiritual tone of your tomorrow. You are choosing to begin the next day from a place of victory rather than from a place of defeat. Your first battle isn't fought at 9 a.m. It's fought in the unseen hours. When you feed your spirit overnight with messages of faith, love, courage, and divine promises, you're preparing your mind to stand strong before the first challenge even shows up. You are giving yourself the advantage of walking into the day spiritually awake, emotionally grounded, and mentally focused. That kind of preparation cannot be replaced by willpower alone. It is built in the dark with quiet decisions that many overlook. Some of the greatest breakthroughs don't come in moments of noise or activity. They are birthed in moments of surrender and stillness. The spirit is sensitive at night, open to receiving, open to healing, open to being reshaped. That's why those hours are sacred. That's why you must be intentional about what you allow into your space during them. Prayer creates an atmosphere where transformation can take place without force or pressure. It allows you to rest while still growing, to sleep while still receiving. It gives God space to speak, to heal, to strengthen you without resistance from your busy thoughts or distracted heart. There's also something deeply powerful about beginning a new day already filled with truth. You wake up not searching for motivation, but already covered in it. You don't have to fight to find peace. It's already been planted in your soul during the night. You move through your morning not from a place of stress, but from a place of strength. Because the real battle wasn't in the moment you faced a problem. It was in the night before, when you chose to let prayer carry you through. That's how victory works. It's quiet, it's patient, it begins in the dark and reveals itself in the light. Playing prayer while you sleep is not just about what you hear. It's about who you become. Every night is more than just a time to shut your eyes and drift away. It's a spiritual opportunity. It's a sacred window where your mind slows down, your body lets go, and your soul becomes most open to what surrounds it. When you choose to fill that space with prayer, you're not just finding rest, you're building strength. You're not just passing time, you're preparing for purpose. Prayer, spoken over your sleep, becomes the unseen armor, the quiet companion, the soft voice that shapes your tomorrow before it even arrives. Whether you're facing anxiety, uncertainty, or just the weight of everyday life, know this: faith doesn't stop when you sleep. Peace doesn't vanish in the dark, and God doesn't go silent just because you close your eyes. Keep the prayer playing, not for tradition, not for ritual, but for transformation. Because while your body may rest, your spirit is rising. While your eyes are closed, your future is being formed. This is how you fight back. This is how you grow strong. This is how you win before the sun even rises. Thank you for listening with an open heart and a ready spirit. May your nights be filled with peace that surpasses understanding, and your mornings rise with clarity, strength, and favor. Keep believing, keep praying, and keep resting in the truth that you're never alone, not even in your sleep. Good luck on your journey. You're stronger than you think, and you're being guided more than you know. Keep the prayer playing and keep walking in victory.